in order to render the existence of anything, there must be proof of that thing existing in order to suggest that it exists. Now, when we're looking at the world, we have actually never identified anything in the world that exists. This is an actual fact. Quantum physics has recently proven that at the most minute level, atoms made of a nucleus with protons, neutrons, and all the trons, and then inside everything is what we call quarks. They're the smallest things that we can find. And these quarks, or quarks, are made of nothing, basically. They appear depending on if we're looking for them, which means that the very substance that we experience in a world is made of the very expectation of it. And what is it that's expecting it? Well, whatever we are, consciousness, is expecting it. Whenever there's a conscious observer of it, reality appears in accordance to it. And this is provable now. Now, what I want to show you is not just this intellectual idea. I want to give you an experiential understanding of that. Because it's no good just to have this as an idea. And the reason for this is because the problems that we face in life are when we believe that we have this separate individual body-mind that experiences a separate world and that we have to suffer through it. But this is the problem. We don't have to suffer. We are completely one with reality, which means that we are innately free. So what I want you to do is imagine a flame. Now, if we were to render the existence of anything, we have to prove it existent in our experience. Otherwise, how can we claim something exists? So the first thing we do, and this is something that I've learned from George Berkeley, which I'm going to share with you. If we imagine a flame, now, in order to render the existence that the flame exists, we must be able to find qualities that are inherent in the flame. We can't just have qualities that are just made up of our mind, you see? So what we're doing here is we are disproving that, or we're just skeptically analyzing if a flame actually exists as an independently separate object to the experience of our mind. So when we look at the flame, what we see in order to know it exists is that we can see it. If we touch it, we feel it. And if it was a loud flame, we would hear it. But obviously the sound of the flame doesn't really come from the flame, so we can't really include that. So in order to know the flame exists, we have two things. We have the color, the form, and then we have the sensation of it. That's how we know a flame exists. There's no other way of claiming it exists other than those things. So then what we do is we say, okay, well, does a flame have these qualities? Does a flame have a size? Does it have a shape inherent in the flame? Does it have a color inherent in the flame? And does it have a temperature? Is the sensation in the flame? So the first thing we do is say, well, I can see the flame. But is that just our mind? Or is that an actual experience that happens in the flame? So the first thing we do is say, well, what consists of the sight? It is purely made of the vision of it. And the vision of it, what's it made of? It's made of color. If there was no color to the flame, it wouldn't have a size or a shape. The size and the shape are inherent in the color, because without the color, there is no size or shape. So we see that its size and shape is dependent upon the color. Without the color, size or shape doesn't exist in the flame. It's non-existent. Its existence is borrowed from the color. So then we look at the color. Well, is the color in the flame? Does a flame have a color? No. If we look at the flame, if we got really close to the flame, the color would vanish. There'd be no color to it. We wouldn't see it. We know by science that color is an experience that is purely created by our mind. They're interpretations of our mind. Nothing has a color. There's no color inside an object that shines outward at you like a flashlight. So the next thing we need to look at is what else consists of the flame in order for it to render it existing. And the next thing would be that we can feel it. So if we were to put our hand near, it would probably burn. If we put it a bit further away, it'd be kind of pleasurable. So what we're doing is we're seeing that my experience of the flame is a pure sensation. Pain is a sensation, pleasure is a sensation. If I go closer, it's hotter. If I move further away, it's colder. So the experience of a flame is the sensation. Now, if we look, the color is also completely dependent upon the temperature of the flame. If there was no temperature, there would be no color of the flame. That's what we call a flame. It's heatness. So hotness appears as a sensation and a color, and the color is inherent in the temperature, and the temperature is merely a sensation. We have no experience of temperature other than the sensation of it. But a flame is made of temperature. But when we experience temperature, we don't actually find anything other than a sensation. Temperature doesn't exist in the flame. Temperature is an experience of our mind. And temperature is dictated by a sensation. There's no experience of temperature for anything outside of the mind. Temperature is purely a mind experience. Sensation is purely a mind experience. A flame doesn't have temperature. It's not inherent in it. It's not programmed inside the flame that there's temperature. The temperature is purely a mind experience, and the sensation of it is purely a mind experience. Because you cannot take temperature away from the sensation. Could you have a temperature without a sensation of it? How would you render temperature existent? You can't render something existent unless it's experienced. But you can't experience temperature without the sensation of it. It is made of sensation. That's how we dictate a temperature. That's how we experience temperature. It's a pure sensation. It's painful if it's hot. It's painful if it's really cold. And it's pleasurable if it's right in between. It's all made of sensation. So now realize that the temperature of the flame doesn't have a temperature. It's just made of the sensation of it. And the sensation of it is purely made of our mind. So when we go to experience the flame, what is left if it doesn't have a color, it doesn't have a size, it doesn't have a shape, it doesn't have anything existing in the flame to render it existing? How can we prove it exists? How can we prove that it's an experience outside of our mind? We know that the size and the shape and the form and the color are all experiences of the mind. We also know that the temperature of it is also a pure experience of the mind. What else is there to the flame? If we took those things away, there's just invisible nothingness that doesn't have a temperature. If it can't be, it's not a flame if it doesn't have a temperature. So you see that when we analyze the flame in this way, we realize that there's nothing in the qualities of a flame that give it any existence other than the qualities in our mind. Now, let's take a pin, for example. A pin is a seemingly solid, dense, separate object outside of our mind. But if we look at the pin, we find that it has a color. A color we know, if we zoomed in, nothing has a color. Everything is colorless. So it doesn't have a color, but if it doesn't have a color, it can't have a size or shape. Size and shape are inherent in the color. You can't have a colorless object. That's what we call something that's invisible. So then we go, okay, we feel it and it feels okay, and then it hurts when we touch the end. There's pain. Pain is a sensation. The object creates pain. Is pain in the sensation? Is pain in the object? Obviously, pain isn't in the fire. That means that sensation isn't in the fire. If sensation isn't in the fire, then we can't have temperature. Likewise, sensation isn't in the pin. Pin cannot have pain. Pain is a sensation. It's a degree of sensation. If we touch the pin on the end, we feel pain. Pain is made of sensation. Pain cannot be in the pin. So whenever we touch the pin, we're not touching a pin. We're not feeling a pin. I'm saying pin. Some people think I say pen. I'm not saying a pen that you write with. I'm saying a pin that hurts when you touch it, that you sew your trousers with. When you touch that, it hurts. This is what we call pain, and it's not inside a pin. So this is the experience. We're not touching anything. There's nothing in the pin that gives it an inherent quality. The pin doesn't have an existence. This is why when we try to find matter, this is why when we try to find anything objective, like by science, we can never find it. This is why science says 99% of all objects is empty space, and the 1% is what? 1% is what? They say it's matter. They say, well, it must be matter, but we can't find it. We just find these quarks, and they blip in and out of existence depending on if we're looking at them. Well, this is why. It's all made of our own mind. Our mind is made of universal consciousness. This universal consciousness experiences its own inner content. So we are simply experiencing our mind. Everything you perceive, it's universal consciousness dressed in the theme of your mind. Just like in a game, we have a texture pack over the universe of the game. We can have different players viewing the same world, just with different themes or different texture packs. So too are we experiencing one universal consciousness with different texture packs, different points of view. And this is what we call finite minds. So whereas the mind is limited, whereas experiencing is limited, that which experiences is unlimited, and it creates the substance that we experience. So this is how we can see that the world is not this solid, dense place. It's made purely of the perception of it. So everything we touch, we never touch the object. We don't even see the object. We're seeing pure perception. These perceptions are made of pure existence, pure reality. Just like in your dream, you experience a world in your mind. So too now do we experience the dream of infinite consciousness. I hope this video brought some value. I share these meditations every single week in my free community. Feel free to join if you're interested. The link is in the description. Take care, guys. Bye.